Four Iraqi men are in custody in northern France, charged with manslaughter after the drowning of six Afghans when an overcrowded migrant boat sank off Dunkirk last Saturday. In a bid to curb the recent surge of migrant crossings to the UK through one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, the French have now brought in an aerial spotter plane. But as Arise News chief correspondent John Cookson reports, the lure of a new life in the UK still spurs migrants, mainly from Africa and the Middle East, to pay ruthless smugglers to get them across the English Channel at all costs.
Dawn on the beaches of northern France. The rubber boats are getting bigger. Some, made in China, now carry up to 60 migrants each. That's good for those seeking a new life in the UK, and better still for the people smugglers who are making over $100,000 a trip. Most migrants have been waiting days, sometimes weeks, for their chance to cross the English Channel in makeshift camps like this one near Dunkirk. They're rat-infested, dangerous places. Migrants here have to pay their fares to people smugglers like this Afghan man. Note his handgun, possibly the same one used in a recent shootout between rival gangs. The migrants here are aware that 6 drowned at sea last weekend, but that doesn't deter them from wanting to reach what they see as the promised land.
If our family knows, they will never allow us, and we also don't want to take that much risk, but we have plans, future. Yeah, we planned, we want to learn. So that's why, we accept that risk to go there.
The British have handed the French almost $1 billion in recent years to stop the boats. But with 170 kilometres of coastline to cover, it's an almost impossible task. Yesterday, so many migrant boats were launched from the French coast, 9 in total. The British Border Force declared what it called a red alert, which enabled them to summon help from the British lifeboat service. In towns like Dunkirk, I was interested to hear what the French people think about their government's efforts to reduce migrant numbers. This man, André, summed up the view of many here. He said, as long as the migrants stay out of town, we're happy with that. Out of sight, out of mind, he said. And so again tonight, migrants will hide in dunes like these behind me for their chance to cross the channel and to their so-called promised land. Some will make it, although as we found out last weekend, some will not. John Cookson, Arise News in northern France.
And John Cookson joins us live from Dunkirk in northern France. John, great report as always, in spite of the story. But can you tell us more about the arrests today in northern France?
Yes, it was announced by the French authorities this morning that 4 Iraqis had been arrested. Now, my guess is that they're actually Iraqi Kurds from the north of Iraq, because the Kurds run a lot of the smuggling operations that go on here in northern France. Other than that, we haven't had many more details about the arrests, except that they're being charged with involuntary manslaughter. Now, this, of course, arises from an incident last Saturday morning, in fact, when an overcrowded immigrant boat capsized a short distance from where I am at the moment off Dunkirk. Many were rescued, but 6, unfortunately, lost their lives, and we'll have to wait to see what the court case is to find out exactly what the 4 men's role in the deaths were. But it's seen here as a step forward, that at least the authorities are acting where it seems necessary, because not too many people have been prosecuted in the past for smuggling operations in northern France. So it's seen as a good effort by the French. Not that it's going to deter anyone, because, as I mentioned in my report, the money to be made in this smuggling operation in the Channel is so great that these smugglers are prepared to take any chance that they can to get more and more people into boats and across the channel into England.
But John, why is there a sudden surge in the number of migrants?
Yeah, three reasons really. First of all, it's summertime, and as we all know, and the sea, the English Channel, is most times in August generally flat calm. I crossed yesterday and I was amazed how smooth the journey was. It's a 31-kilometre crossing from Dover to Calais, and the boat to the ferry that I was on barely shifted in the water. It was very, very calm. So the migrants need calm seas to get across. Any hint of waves, and they're in some sort of peril. Second of all, it's August. A lot of French people, and particularly those in government, and including the police and the security forces, they go away on holiday in August. So there are fewer people to intercept on the French side, the migrants, as there might be during the rest of the year. So that's another reason. The final reason is that, as I mentioned also in my report, the boats are getting much bigger. These massive rubber dinghies being made in China and transported across two continents, in fact, to get to places like Dunkirk, are huge, and they can carry at least 60 people at a time, maybe 10 plus more people clinging to the side, so that they can get more people across in any number of goes. And there were 9 boats yesterday with at least 30 to 60 people on each, so you can get some idea of the scale of what the British authorities are having to deal with once they start to come ashore. And unusually, one group were picked up by a British lifeboat. The people on board included women and children, and they were landed in Deal in Kent, which is quite unusual. It's further up the coast from where they usually land in the Dover area. So for those three main reasons, that's why there's a surge in the number of migrants at this time of year.
Indeed. Well, John, you've also spent the last 2 days in the Calais, Dunkirk areas. What have you learned so far about the current migrant crisis?
Yes, I was at the camp yesterday, and we featured interviews from the camp at Lune Plage, that is the main one here, yesterday on Arise News in the evening. And it really is a bad place. I mean, apart from hundreds of migrants, mostly young men who have no form of identity on them, no one knows who they are or where they're from. They're told to lie to the authorities about where they're from. So one guy told me he was from Sudan, but I know Sudan reasonably well. I could tell that he wasn't a Sudanese when I started asking him questions about Sudan. And then in the mix of all of this, you've got charity workers and also the evil people smugglers, always in the margins, trying to persuade people to part with their money. And I showed one of them in my report there. The carrying of handguns is almost routine by some of them. It's a very, very dangerous place, especially at night. And to add to the troubles of the people who live there, it's rat infested, it's dirty, it stinks, it's just a terrible place.
Well, the International Organization for Migration also confirmed a number of migrants that are believed to have died after a migrant boat from Senegal was found off the West Africa's Cape Verde Islands. Do you have any update on this?
Yeah, another tragedy, isn't it? They set sail on July the 10th, in fact, and been at sea for all those days until they were discovered yesterday, many of them suffering from the effects of dehydration. They were found 320 kilometres off the island of Sal in the Cape Verde Islands, including young children. There were 60 dead on a boat that had, according to witnesses, 101 people on it when it left Cape Verde. Those on board were from Senegal, Sierra Leone and Guinea-Bissau. Now, although the boat was intercepted by the Spanish a naval vessel off Cape Verde. Cape Verde would not have been their destination. They were for sure heading to the Canary Islands, which is Spanish. I have reported from there in the past, and indeed met many migrants who've made the trip several times. They put themselves in boats and they launched off the coast of West Africa. They get intercepted by Spanish Navy, and then maybe they're returned to Africa because they don't qualify to remain in the EU. And they make the journey several times. It's quite incredible, such a dangerous journey. But this time, this one ended in tragedy for so many.
Indeed, it did. Well, we'd like to thank you for your time and contribution here on Newsday. As always, Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson, live from France. Thank you.